Do the Rays have a clear plan on what they're doing with Christopher Morel?
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Rays podcast. Locked On Rays is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and we are Kevin and Ulysses.
And we are lifelong Rays fans who've been podcasting about these Rays since 2019.
On today's show, the Rays fall further down below 500. We'll discuss that later on in the show. In a few minutes, we'll talk about Adrian Houser's debut as a Ray, but we'll begin by trying to decode the Rays' streaky formula since June 27th.
Before that, though, the episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com and today use promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. You know who might need 5-Hour Energy Transfusion shots is that Rays front office, Kev, because I believe they don't know what they're doing with Christopher Morel. I think they are all over the place. And I think some of it has to do with what Christopher Morel is doing.
Yeah.
And some of it is the context of what the team is doing. For example, let me explain. Since May 20th to June 26th, the record was 25-9. Everybody was happy. They were scoring about 6 runs a game. The starter ERA was around 2.8. The bullpen was at 3.08. I mean, just World Series, here we come.
Mm-hmm.
Since June 27, the Rays have gone 9-24. Basically, the complete opposite of what they did in their really good streak. They're scoring 2 runs less at 3.9. Their ERA has gone up 2 runs at 4.75. And their bullpen ERA is at 4.91. So the context of what the team is doing definitely hampers what Christopher Morel is doing, right? Like, if everybody's down, usually that's going to be a drag on your own individual performance. But I think Sunday to Monday gave us a really good basis on saying that they don't have a clear plan on Christopher Morel, because how is it that a guy that is killing sweepers for slugging at almost a 500 slug does not get pinch hit in that situation against Treinen on Sunday? Instead, you send a lefty with 40 at-bats in Major League Baseball to take that at-bat against Treinen. And then the very next day, you have him hitting cleanup against lefties, who, by the way, Christopher Morel is hitting better against righties. Against lefties, he's hitting 187 with a 253 on base and a 341 slug. The very next day, you have him hitting cleanup against Kikuchi. You cannot tell me that in back-to-back days, that makes complete sense. That it just doesn't. And I believe the Rays are stuck in the middle, and they do not have a clear plan on what to do with Christopher Morel.
Yeah, that's all valid. And if you watched the broadcast last night, Brian Anderson made a really good point about Chris Morel. Is it seems as though he's lengthening and elongating his swing and getting behind on fastballs. It's almost like he's pushing his bat out, and it's causing a whole bunch of problems, similar to what Rainier Rosarena would deal with on occasion in a Rays uniform. And I really do not get or understand the take a guy who is struggling and doesn't have it and put him in the cleanup spot. The only thing I can think of is it's like they're trying to make it a confidence booster. I know that Joe Madden used to do that with a guy that was having issues. He'd put him at the top of the lineup and try to, get him as many at bats and try to boost him a little bit. But with Chris Morel, I feel like you're at the point where you almost have to hide him. Or maybe the Rays are saying, maybe they're at a juncture right now at 55 and 59, and losing to the Angels like they're losing to the Dodgers, where it's like, hey, let's just put this guy into a spot, give him at bats and opportunities, except for pitch hitting opportunities, and see if he can find his way out of it. If he can't, we probably have to look elsewhere for 2026.
We might be at that situation that we were talking with Evan right before the trade deadline. We talked to Evan right before the trade, right? Yeah. I think we might be at that point after a week's worth of games where is the front office conscious of, hey, we're no longer in this thing. We're 5 games out or so from a last wild card spot and like 4 teams ahead of us. Maybe we need to know who this guy with impressive bat speed is. Yeah. This guy who, when he hits it on the barrel and it goes a long way when he finds some sort of contact. Like, yes, some of these metrics under the hood are impressive, especially like if you look at the names that are in those lists next to him. Of course, you have got Ohtani, you've got Judge, you've got people that are doing really good things in the game. Pete Alonso with bat speed, but the results have to be there at some point. Yeah. You can't just have a major league career on potential. You can have a minor league career on potential for sure. Like, hey, this guy, I mean, we can do so much with him. We got to bring him up. We've seen that time and time again, that maybe a guy with not so great results makes it to the major leagues. But you don't see a 10, 15-year career of a guy being a starter just on potential alone. Right. And that time is running out. And it seems to me that the tick-tock is getting louder by the minute, man.
Well, the other thing, too, is he DH'd last night. So that is something that isn't given a lot of credit to, is guys who can be strictly DH only and handle all that comes with that. Like between Mangum, Lowe, and DeLuca, I think that's a better outfield combination than inserting Chris Morel. So
sure,
Chris Morel might, not even have a position to play all that often anymore. Moreover, he is not really DH'd all that much. So I feel like that could even hamper his ability to hit if he's not used. I mean, let's be honest, his entire career, probably dating back to little leagues, minors, and so forth, he was always out there in a position. Yeah. You almost have to be, I feel like, primed and geared towards being a designated hitter. And I don't know if he's that guy. And look, it's not on Chris Morel, because the offense collectively scored 1 run and cobbled together 5 hits.
Right.
So
it wasn't a game. It wasn't an offensive game whatsoever where he was the lone guy. No. Yeah. But hitting in the
when your quote unquote cleanup hitter goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, that doesn't help matters.
The spotlight is going to be bigger. And Evan had a really great thread on today on Twitter. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. Just talks about this kind of stuff of Morel with the bat speed and some of the underlying metrics that maybe that's why the Rays are still giving him some sort of chance. But funnily enough, against Soriano, who's a righty and he's hitting righties better, he sits down. That's why I think they're in between. They don't know where to play him. Like left field, they said no to second base. So at least they took that variable out in 2025. You're saying DH hasn't played that much. We know from a lot of baseball that we've watched and from many interviews of players, DH is not as easy as get up and hit, man. Yep. Only the weirdos like David Ortiz and Yandy Diaz can just wake up and hit. The rest of the human species, that's a very difficult thing to do.
You have to find a groove and a rhythm. And what are you doing in between all that idle time? Are you riding the bike? And who knows, maybe Chris Morel talked to Yandy and try to get some tips here and there, but it's still an adjustment nonetheless.
I mean, Rafael Devers, can we agree on, I know it's, he was an ex-Red Sox, but Rafael Devers is objectively a much better hitter than Christopher Morel.
Right.
He had a really tough time getting used to being a DH earlier this season with the Red Sox. It's a problem. So they don't know if they should use him as a DH and not that often. They don't really like his defense, but they put him in left field. They don't trust him against Trinan, even though he's really good against sweepers for slug in a situation where you want slug. And then you put a guy with 40 career at bats in minor league. And then the very next day you hit him clean up against lefties who he's not really doing that well. It's clear there's not a real set path here. And I think that's honestly a factor of why he's struggling, because there is not a continuous, clear, this is how you're going to play. This is when you'll be playing. It's very scattered. And we know baseball players, Hunter Renfroe could tell you this, doesn't help their performance.
He hated playing for the Rays because he didn't have that objective or that, hey, this is who you are.
Yeah.
So, all right, we have more to discuss, but first we have to tell the audience something very important that is next on the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel, it is the best way to make every game even more interesting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. We know all about that in Florida, don't we? I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. I probably spend too much time on FanDuel, but I'm not ashamed to say that. And if you are new to FanDuel, did you know that new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins? Go ahead and open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, welcome back to the Locked On Rays podcast. Beyond the offense struggling, we also saw the Rays debut of Adrian Houser, and it didn't quite go as expected. He pitched 5 2/3 innings, so clap for being able to get through 5+, I guess. But in those 5 2/3 innings, he gave up 11 hits, 5 earned runs, allowed a walk, and notched just 3 strikeouts. Quite the dichotomy from what he had done in a White Sox uniform this season, where he basically had a 2.5 ERA. So yeah. I think there was some expectation that, Adrian Houser is going to take the production that he had with the White Sox and translate that in a Rays uniform. And as we know, time and time again, with trade deadline acquisitions, that may not always happen, whether it's with a pitcher or a position player. And look, Adrian Houser, I think we can all agree he's probably just a short-term rental. He's going to be a free agent in 2026 unless the Rays really see something in him that they can mold and foster. I think he's just here for a couple months and out. But with Adrian Houser, I think that, we have to have somewhat limited expectations. I mean, I think he'll be able to go, 5+ innings every 5 days. Okay. And not saying he's always going to allow 5 earned runs, but I would not expect him to be the guy that he was in a White Sox uniform. I think that going to a new team, you have to, first off, what he's doing is he arrives with the Rays and you have to get familiar with the new catching staff.
Yep. And
you're traveling on the West Coast. So there's a lot of things at play for him that, may be impacting his performance, let alone, he doesn't miss many bats if you look at his stat number. So really what he has to do is just keep the ball on the ground. And if he doesn't keep the ball on the ground, he's going to be in trouble. Line drives, fly balls. So that's really the key for him. So yeah, I don't know if it's a matter of adjusting his repertoire and leaning into one pitch more than the other. But if you see him give up elevated contact, that's going to be a problem.
Three things with Hauser. Number one, I do believe we saw him on Friday at the Stein when we thought that he was a doppelganger of one of our friends in attendance. I'm pretty sure that was Adrian Houser. That's number one. Probably the most important for Locked On Rays Nation. Number two, pitch to contact. Yeah, the problem was that on Monday's game, the contact was hard. And by hard, I mean that out of all the plate appearances that have resulted in a hard hit ball, an exit velo of 100 miles per hour or more, according to Savant, 18% of what he has allowed this year, 18% was on Monday. On Monday alone, 18%. That is, so you have to hope that this was just an outlier, because an evening of 18% of anything, that screams that shouldn't be the rule. That shouldn't be the rule. It's one of every five that he's had this whole year. It happened on Monday. That's tough. So that, I think I'm going to take that as okay, bad evening, shouldn't repeat itself so bad, which goes to your point of, don't expect White Sox, but hey, yesterday was a little bit, off the handle. Yeah. But you mentioned something right in the middle that I think it's, besides the whole, hey, it's a human being that his life has now changed dramatically.
Yeah, upended.
Right. This is a very big country, going from Chicago to Tampa. that's a big distance and a big
Chicago to Tampa and then to California.
And then to the West Coast. Yeah, exactly. It's just a whole crazy week for him, right? And his family. Right. You mentioned the catching. Who are the catchers right now for the Rays? Fortes, who, Kevin, if you can find it rather quickly.
He has a total of 368, actually. But I'll one up you on the number of games played. No. Yeah.
368. Fiducia has 9.
Right.
Not a lot. Not overall, that's like a bit more than 2 seasons of Major League Baseball. We know the catching tandem is incredibly important for a successful evening of baseball. Maybe that's a big factor there, is, the fact that, Fortes doesn't really know how Hauser operates. There were a lot of 0-2, 1-2 counts where instead of like throwing a junk ball just to see if they could chase or anything like that, right down the middle, man. So that's, I think, some of the factors that I think we should talk about that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And again, Fortes and Fiducia are brand new to the Rays organization as well. It'd be one thing if they had, been there for a couple years or several months and could really get settled in. I mean, they're still, quote unquote, trying to find the locker room and trying to meet everybody and get up to speed on the scouting reports and the coaching staff and all the inner workings of the organization. So they're drinking from a fire hose. Then you have a pitcher who, more or less is drinking from a fire hose, and it isn't a great combination. Also, look, I know the Angels aren't a great team, but the other guys get paid too. And if there's one thing that the Angels have working for them a little bit, is they do have depth in terms of, there are quite a few guys who have hit the ball hard and notched out dingers this year. You look at Taylor Ward, you look at Joey Wendle, Mike Trout, Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Nato, and even going down the list, we know what Jorge Soler can provide. But there are guys in the lineup who can hit that ball far, hard, and long. So, that's just another consideration. But again, it's not like if you look up Adrian Houser's career numbers. In fact, I think he was signed on a minor league deal by the White Sox. So,
might have been,
he was quote unquote persona non grata. And, he's had very up and down seasons. I mean, if you look at what he did in 2024, he had a nearly 6 ERA.
Mop-up duty guy. Yeah, mop-up duty guy. Then this one.
And I think that's essentially what I see from Adrian Houser. Mop-up duty guy, maybe a little bit better if he can find his luck.
Hopefully it's a little closer to White Sox career, which was a very brief one. But I see your wrinkles.
Trevor Richards is what we're looking at.
It could be it could be regression time for Adrian Houser. Could be regression. He had a great 4 months, and then this is the downturn. Hopefully not, because as Rays fans, we want nothing but the absolute best for Adrian Houser because his success is our success. But I see your point that maybe we should tame down those expectations that maybe he's just going to replicate exactly what he did with the White Sox for the Rays.
Indeed. All right. We have more to discuss on the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. You got that bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink. Hey, Kevin Weiss plays golf, and I'm pretty sure he's pretty good at sinking birdies. Are you, Kev?
Sometimes. I'm hoping to do better at that, though.
Well, guess what? When you take 5 Hour Energy Transfusion, your golf game is going to be improving. And you don't have to take it just because you're playing golf. Perhaps you need one while you're watching Rays baseball, because 2025 Rays baseball has been a roller coaster. So today, if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. Remember, the offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get that energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today.
All right, Ulises, wrapping things up here on the program. We kind of hit the Rays hard a little bit, but hey, when you're losing 5-1 and 5-0 on a seemingly regular basis, I mean, all we have to do is go back to what they've done or haven't done since June 27th. That just goes to show you where we're at with this organization and this team this year. But there is one thing we can be upbeat and bullish about, and that is Jake Mangum. He was named the 2025 MLB PAA Heart and Hustle Award winner, and he is basically the exact definition of heart and hustle. 28, 29-year-old rookie who goes all out to make a catch, goes all out to steal a base, tries to put the ball in play. Again, is he ever going to be an all-star, or was he ever a top-ranked prospect? No and no, but he has that grit and grind factor that I think all Rays fans alike can agree upon. I mean, yeah, sure, we can complain about the OPS and lack of home runs and all that, but he is much more beyond that type of player. And I think he's starting to quasi cement himself, if he hasn't already, as, you know, a fan favorite type, cult following type of player in the mold of a Joey Wendle, a Brett Phillips, a G-Man Choi, auxiliary piece who just does some things more actively or energetically, and you can tell he is team focused and team minded instead of all the personal accolades, if you will.
I really like the way that you mentioned Joey Wendle there, because that's kind of the same kind of mold, right? Do not take a play off and an older sort of rookie and trying to just take it all in. And so when you say never an all-star, I understand what you're saying, but boy, we could have said the same thing about Joey Wendle, and he actually became an all-star. So I wouldn't be surprised at Jake Mangum. Does Jake Mangum have the potential of putting a really good first 3 months of the season and get nominated?
Anybody can. Seemingly anybody can. We've seen it time and time again.
And we see it time and time again where, you know, Christopher Morels are being traded for all-stars in Isaac Paredes. So anything can happen, people. With Jake Mangum, I want to do like a little, just like we did with Christopher Morel, Sunday to Monday. So let's go backwards. Let's Tarantino this. On Monday, he made a highlight crash into like the foul territory and got a tremendous out there that not even, I think Andy and BA were surprised that he came up with it. On Sunday, he robbed a home run from Freddie Freeman. It was incredible. I think the FanDuel banner on the left field wall is kind of damaged because of his cleats. But before then, he kind of didn't charge a ball that was hit to him and it allowed Freddie Freeman to score, where everybody, Dwayne and BA, were kind of astounded that, like, how is Freddie Freeman scoring on this? And when you see the replay, Jake was just not proactive. He was reactive. He just let the ball come to him, and then he threw it to Walls with the relay, and it took too long, when instead of Mangum should have charged the ball and then cut some time there. Mm-hmm. And then Freddie would have been out at the plate by a mile. But he didn't do that. But you know what he did, though? He was accountable. And after the game, he went up to those mics and he said, yeah, I took too long on that play. I should have charged the ball. I still believe in this team. I think we've got what it takes to turn it around. So that is big time defense plus big time accountability. And that's really all, at least in Tampa Bay, at least as Rays fans, that's what we want from our players. Is if they make a mistake, I think the rational fans know that that's going to happen. They're not going to go 4 for 4 every time. What we want is some accountability. What we want is, hey, that was a screw up. Hey, because then that goes back to the point of a fan favorite. If we see as fans that you care, that you're saying up to the mic saying, hey, that's on me and I need to be better and I need to fix that, you just get yourself so many brownie points with the fandom. And Jake Mangum has done that not only with his play, but with his words in front of a mic. So big shout out to Jake Mangum. He's been killing it. We've really liked his play. But honestly, all the plays and all the hustle are great. But what stuck to me was the fact that he stood up in front of those mics, because we know that some other players, even race players, when they have a crappy game or they don't do something that they should have done, they just don't talk to the media.
Yeah. And even though I know he's 29 years old, still a rookie. So still a rookie being that accountable. And you mentioned the defense plus the effort. I think those are kind of some of the factors that put you in the good graces of Rays fandom, if you will. And hopefully he's able to keep it up. There's certainly things we like about his game, his speed, his bat to ball skills. Certainly we'd like to see a little bit more power, but that's just not who he is. I think that he is, as Chandler Simpson is dealing with what he's dealing with, I think he can hold the fort down for the most part. No, he's probably not going to steal 3 bases in a game, but I think that, and I know our buddy Evan Klosky has mentioned it, it's kind of reciprocity between Jake Mangum and Chandler Simpson. But, I feel like you're not losing a ton if it comes down to, Chandler Simpson's out for a little bit and Jake Mangum has to get a little bit more action.
Yeah. The only thing with Mangum, if you go in the numbers, post All-Star game, he has been a little bit struggling here. He's hitting 149 when he was hitting 310 before the All-Star game. The on base, it's gone down from 349 to 200, and the slug has gone down from 394 to 170. So that's a 400-point difference in your OPS. Hopefully, I know it's just 50 plate appearances since the post All-Star game, so hopefully it's just a little bit of a rut, and then he can get back to it. But yeah, that's something that's maybe, if you guys are watching closely, Jake Mangum's numbers, there's been a dip because I think maybe there's some fatigue, maybe there's some more information on what Jake Mangum's holes are, right? Everybody's got holes, so maybe they've identified what Jake is not doing that they can attack. And now it's up to Jake to close those holes and make sure that he can get back to that player that he was before the All-Star game.
Yeah, and I know that he had that groin injury earlier on in the year, and who knows if that still, bothers him every now and again. He doesn't want to say anything, or who knows what it is. I think it could be a combination thereof. You just hope he's able to figure it out and get through it. I mean, I think that every young player, every rookie is going to deal with slumps and slides, and you got to figure out a way to make those adjustments. Like Chris Morel, you got to be able to find a way to make an adjustment and shorten your swing and get the bat to the ball. So, those aren't the only guys. I mean, we need to come together to get more than one run on the board against the Angels, even though you say Kikuchi was on the mound, but they've had some tough pitching matchups, but you cannot win games very often by scoring just one run. We said that many times over and over again. On that note, we thank you for making Locked On Rays your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.